All right. Hello, everybody. It's Eric Taylor, Big E Astrology, and hello to everyone watching on the replay and the recording. And just for the collective, we are talking about today at Coffee Talk, first off, the Virgo Lunar Eclipse, which we know just happened the other night, right? And one thing that's happening that you'll really experience with the Virgo lunar eclipse, you can feel the eclipse energy pretty strong 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. And a lot of things can manifest in our lives for the entire world and the collective up to 6 months, and that will take us to September for the Virgo New Moon. And that's pretty standard. The nodes of fate, right? The north node known as Rahu, the south node known as Ketu, they, in ancient times were often connected to the passing of leaders and kings and sometimes wars and huge changes in people's lives, right? And so we have experience, and I don't know, I'll share this. I had a podcast guest who was a tremendous light worker and healer, and I'm going to be re-airing her podcast, or at least putting it on my featured page, on my YouTube page as a featured episode. Sherry Anshara, and she was 83, and I was so honored she had her own technique of healing. She would heal people on the cellular level and explain that our bodies can remember and want to heal themselves. And she was so incredible. She could literally walk up to you and the cells would communicate with her. And she would tell you, like she said to me, like, I went for a reading with her, but she just met my wife. And she was like, oh, what happened to you at 7 years old? And she was like, what? And she was like, oh, your cells spoke to me. And she was that gifted, and it was literal. I mean, I can testify because I was a client. I got to read her chart, and I saw her, her gifts. She's also was a survivor of 5 NDEs. But I say this all to say, we recently just had a slew, Roberta Flack. We've had football players, athletes. We had, Angie Stone. A lot of musical artists have just recently passed in the last month. We had Irv Gotti. We had so many different people. Oh God, somebody from the Dwayne Higgins from
Chris Jasper,
2022, and then yeah, who? No, he was from Sly.
the
No,
Isley Brothers.
Isley Brothers. Yes, and say the first name again.
Chris Jasper.
Chris Jasper. Yes, I was trying to find the name, and I knew because I was like, it's Isley or Sly, but I mean, so many people. And so I'm sorry, I just have the text open because okay, no. So, this can happen around eclipses. We know what's going on in the world and the government and all the stuff. They obviously did reach a deal so our government doesn't shut down, not without controversy. But these are the types of things and these huge, like, when you're dealing with mutable energy, the ebbs and flows, right? So, this was at 2:46 a.m. on the East Coast, and on the West Coast, right, in 55, and then 11:55 on the West Coast, okay? So what we're going to really focus in on now, if we were looking at this at 2:55 in the East Coast, New York, the ascendant most likely would probably shift because of the longitude and latitude. This is Pacific, the West Coast, so it could be a Cap or a Scorpio rising, but that's kind of semantics. You're just kind of reading the energy and the angles to it. But for this explanation, I will kind of refer to a little bit of the Sag rising for the West Coast in that sense. Because, you always want to start off looking at the chart ruler, which for Sagittarius is Jupiter. And we know that that's in Gemini until June 8th, okay? Because June 9th, for some of you guys, it may feel really nice. For you Gemini moons, you may be like, oh, bye, Jupiter, I'm going to miss you because you've been very beneficial for me. Hopefully it was. But it's going to be going to Cancer, okay? But Jupiter, during the eclipse, being at 13 degrees, just really this actually is America's chart, the Sag rising. So this does play to, since we are all Americans, sometimes, we have people are international, as we do on the replay. So, don't want to leave out my international audience. But this does speak to kind of the other half and coming to agreements, right? Like they did on Friday evening. So it's kind of interesting. But we definitely have to start off with the Pisces season and the Pisces sun, right? And that's at 23 degrees, this eclipse. But remember, the moon opposing it, right, is actually opposing, sorry, I didn't get to charge up my mouse battery so much. But the moon is opposing the Saturn, right, at this eclipse at 23 degrees. Okay. And one thing that we have to know when you're dealing with all this watery energy and you're having this blood super full Virgo lunar eclipse, I mean, it's like all these different things, right? But I hate to say it, all this death, sometimes when you literally have the blood moon, it can be an indicator of that. And obviously things were so much more, I think, in some ways dramatic in ancient times, but they would write down or explain these things because of what their personal experiences were. So, like, if we were just starting to teach people in the future, hey, we'd have to say the same thing because there's been so much death in the last 2 weeks and even just all around this eclipse that it's actually been literal for us. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think we've heard anything. I haven't heard the latest on King Charles or the Pope. We don't know if they're hanging on by a thread, if they've already passed. I mean, I just haven't heard any big announcements. If anybody's heard anything, you could correct me and let me know. But as far as we think we know, that they're still kind of alive, correct? Has anybody heard
So
anything? Or
far, no.
yeah, it's kind of weird, right? There hasn't really been, and see, that's where I don't want to get too whatever in the weeds with that, but I will say that is very bizarre and strange because when you make these announcements that these guys are like on their last leg, but then don't say anything for super long periods of time, that's kind of strange because, to the world, they're kind of very important figures, right? I mean, it's, King Charles and the Pope, for goodness sakes. So kind of interesting. But when you have the moon opposing the Saturn, that right there, right now, for us as Americans, when you look in this Sag chart, it really is kind of representing, and some of you may know about like the People's Union, right? From the 7th to the 14th, there were the protests at Amazon. Before that, there was, I believe, Target or oh no, just not shopping on the 28th, not spending any money. Then you Target and Walmart, and they're actually trying to form a union for the people, which is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, they're really trying to do some big things. But I do think when you're dealing with the Virgo moon, and remember, it's trining the Uranus, okay? And so the Uranus and Taurus, and we still have this Mars moving direct but slowly, but it's at the 18th degree, and that's trining the Saturn. We have a lot of support for kind of looking at and investigating the illusion, confusion, and deceptions of the government, but also any authorities and self-placed restrictions that we put on ourselves in our own life, right? And, when you're coming up with this full moon in Virgo and it's an eclipse, there's a lot of, because it's conjunct the South Node, there's a lot of releasing, right? And so we have to kind of come to a place where we let go of perfectionism, where we let go of being overly self-critical and overcritical and nitpicky upon others in our lives. And remember, K2, the South Node, it will cut, separate, and divide like Mars, but its greatest desire is to be in almost like a Libra energy, right? In a really harmonious spiritual place. And so for Virgo, that means the higher vibration is to really be of service to your fellow neighbor and to humanity and to yourself, right? At this time, we are being called, and the support that this moon has, it has this trine to Uranus. Uranus in Taurus is not so nice, right? It's been sort of challenging since 2018, and we've seen it in where, right? All the attacks on our food supply. And this is worldwide, right? You know, you had the great farmer protest in Amsterdam and the Netherlands, but we've had our food supply attacked here in America for like the last umpteen, it seems like a lot of years now, right? From Ohio to Texas to eggs and chickens and blowing up this and this happening and this and that. The weather, Uranus and Taurus is literally hashtag New Earth. It's not discrediting anything with global warming or climate change or any of that, but there has been an increased focus on things and extremes, which is what Uranus brings in, right? Uranus is unexpected events, it's chaos. But remember, it's the spiritual awakener and it's about freedom and liberation, but it's evolving your soul. So the one thing that you can experience, especially for you Taurus risings, Taurus suns, right, that this 7 year experience, almost want to say experiment, but this experience of Uranus, right, it is the midlife crisis, 42 to 49, the 7 year itch in a marriage. That's Uranus. Uranus spends 7 years in a sign in a house, you guys. So, for Taurus risings, for Taurus suns, your life can really flip all different directions, and it's around the values, the self-worth, the resources, what you value, your finances, right? Our food, our resources, even our speech, our five senses. So a lot of that has been affected, but at this time, being in a trine to the Virgo lunar eclipse, this Uranus is giving a lot of support to us, not only activating our throat chakras, but really walking into a place where we have to think and come into this place that all things are happening for our greatest good, right? You guys know I talk about it in videos, astro weather, and the podcast live, but I really mean it that I've seen it astrologically, but I've been feeling it for a while, right? That we can't worry about what these people are doing down in DC or the one percenters or whoever's in control, the secret societies. We, the people, right? And it's so funny that they started this people's union because it's so apropos of Pluto in Aquarius. I want you guys to get that. What you're seeing manifest in reality, it's in the stars, as above, so down below. And it's the same thing, Virgo Pisces is the health axis, mental, spiritual, and physical, right? The 3D and the 5D. So Uranus trining this Virgo lunar eclipse, there's a lot of energy that we have got support for tremendous changes and really to walk into our becoming the president and leaders of our own lives in the I am energy. Even, as we get for next week, the closing the chapter of the Aries partial solar eclipse, that Aries North Node, Libra South Node chapter that we went through from 23 to, January 10th, 2025, that's the I versus the we battle. And so having this Aries partial solar eclipse with Neptune and Aries the next day, next week is so important as well because we have got to take stock. And there's no accident that this has been happening. I get it. I get so excited, like astrology, geek out, nerd stuff, because this has all been happening while Chiron is in Aries. Because whether we want to admit it or not, you guys, we are all wounded as a collective because we are not really being the leaders and presidents of our own lives. We all are relying on our government, our daddy, our New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all this foolishness, my daddy. And that's not going to serve us. When we said goodbye to Pluto Capricorn, and when we officially get Neptune and Saturn and Aries and Uranus and Gemini, I want you to really understand, not only have our souls chosen to be here, but we're so brave and we have to clap and pat ourselves on the back that we're all kind of, grown here. We've survived, HIV, AIDS, 9/11. We survived the stock market, this, the Y2K, that, the COVID, the this. And our souls are here to really help to lay down the foundation of the age of Aquarius. just, when you're at the beach and the sand is wet, we're kind of like stepping on that wet sand. That's like how literally this is the early stages, and we're here to lay down the foundation. And guess what? That's such an important role, right? Remember the Great Conjunction, um, December 21st, right, 2020, going into 2021, that was setting up the next 20, but really the next 200 years, right, of these air sign conjunctions between the great malefic and the great benefic, Jupiter and Saturn. And so that was kind of that, kind of like the trumpet. Imagine the trumpets blowing like doo 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 doo. Goodbye to the Piscean age. Welcome the precipice of the age of Aquarius. That was the announcement. Okay, I'm trying to like give you the visualizations. Hopefully, it's a good job of that. But literally think of it like that. Okay, and understand that Uranus, it's never comfortable, you guys. Trust me, I'm not saying that this is easy. It's not going to be easy in Uranus and Gemini. But what you've seen from me and heard from other astrologers, these planetary alignments, there's nothing to fear, but yes, they are reminiscent of the American Revolution, the Civil War, World War II, right? America's going through its Uranus return in Gemini, right? Pluto and Aquarius, right? French Revolution as well. I mean, so these are huge planetary shifts, and 2025 is the year of the coming attractions. When you're in the theater, the sneak previews, right? Because July 7th, and I'll do a coffee talk for that, Uranus will enter Gemini, but it won't permanently go in for 7 years until April of 2026 to 2033. Okay. And then I told you in February, Saturn and Neptune will join and be in an exact conjunction in Aries in February 2026. These are colossal. So with Virgo and Taurus, right, the first two earth signs, this is also to help us to really understand you've got to do the spring cleaning. You have got to get more organized and detailed in your life, but also release that energy of overanalysis creates paralysis, right? Us three Virgos here, we can tell you we love being Virgos. It is the most common sun sign. Aquarius is the most rare. Aries and Pisces are the most rare ascendants. But being a Virgo, it is not an easy life. We're like trapped in our head sometimes. And I've gotten to that place where I actually one time when I was in my 20s had to go to a doctor because I was working too much and my nerves were acting all up and I was overstressed because I was just doing too much data in the computer, too much input, right? And I'm sure Danny and Gail could put up an amen testimonial about that because
Always rabbit hole searching.
oh girl, listen, it's we need information. I joke, and you guys probably hear me say it sometimes, but I really mean this. Like, I feel like I need at least a 30-hour day, if not like a 32, 36-hour day, so I could work more than 20. Like, if I could work 24 hours and then get in like another 8 for sleep and have a 32-hour day, that'd be like, mwah, perfect. Because I've run out of time. I've got so much that I need to, but want to do, and I've even spoken to Julie about like there's certain like studies, astrological research and studies that I'd like to do. I just don't have the time, but these are the things that Virgos contemplate like constantly. It's a lot. So, you know, I say all that to say that I was very fortunate and happy in some sense. My twins were due September 16th and they came August 14th. And they were like, sorry, Dad, we want to be Leos and make your house a mess. But I was happy for them because they literally brought the sunshine into my life, but they took away the cleanliness and the peace and quiet in my home. But that's okay. That's okay. But that Leo energy is really special. So one thing that I want you guys to know is that at this time, remember, this was just hours before. Sorry, let me get this. Um, Literally hours before, and we'll get to that next chart, of the Mercury joining Venus retrograde. And what's so important about these two energies, right, is that they're going to both do this dance back together. But for the Virgo lunar eclipse, Mercury, you're already feeling the Mercury retrograde energy because it's just hours away. It's like, it was literally less than 24 hours away, right? But you're it gives us the opportunity. Think of the Venus and Aries, right? Venus is your love language, your value, self-worth, money, arts, culture, entertainment, chocolate, right? It's the self-worth. And one thing that people forget about Venus that I guess I would say God or Spirit has called me to really talk about this more lately because I noticed that I have, and I'm, wondering why, but it's energetically. Venus is also devotion. What are you devoted to? Yes, it can be the wife in a same-sex couple chart or a wife or a husband, but Venus is also the relationships and love languages, but it's devotion. And just so you guys know, it's sperm, it's semen, it's the seed of life, right? So when you have that in Aries retrograde during the Virgo lunar eclipse, and then Mercury is on the precipice of about to go retrograde, this with the Chiron is really how do we start to put ourselves first, right? If you guys go to the supermarket or the store and you forget something, you're not dumb, you're not silly, you're not stupid, you're not an idiot. You just forgot something. It happens, right? And what that also speaks to is that we have got to have this Pisces sun and Saturn, North Node Neptune, and guess who's here? This is another thing that's not an accident. Ceres, the goddess of harvest. How you want to be nurtured and cared for, and how you nurture and care for others, right? The goddess of harvest, so it's food and grain. It's also your fashion. Ceres has a little, redundancy with Venus in a way. But when it's in Pisces and Saturn's there, it's talking about the compassion, the empathy, the grace and mercy for ourselves. When you've got Mercury and Venus going retrograde dancing together, right, to April 7th and April 14th, we as a collective and the Chiron wound, we have got to start to, one, stop beating up on ourselves. Two, realize that it's on us. We can't play the self-sacrificing victim anymore. We do have to honor the Saturn. We live in a Saturnian matrix bubble, and the Saturn is saying to us, right, healthy boundaries, spiritual discipline, compassion, empathy, grace, and mercy for yourselves first, right? The airplane thing, put your mask on first, then you can help the kids and whoever else. That is what the cosmic energy is speaking to. And so one thing that I think that we can see play out for the next 6 months is more the people versus the government. And I think eventually the people are going to start to slowly awaken and kind of, it's not going to be everybody, but I mean, awaken to the sense that we don't need to be red versus blue, Democrat, Republican, that the people have got to come together and take care of one another in this country. The people have got to value themselves and walk into being leaders in their local communities, right? Do you see that in terms of this Mercury, Venus, Chiron, and Aries, and the moon opposing the government, right? Please understand, the Neptune has been there, and I'll be talking about it tonight. Even though I'm dead tired, I am going to take Sunday off, but I'll be live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I'm talking about Neptune. And you guys know I'm kind of a visionary of the future always. I'll be talking also about Pluto in Pisces starting 2044, and the trifecta Black Moon, Lilith, and Pisces to kind of close out Pisces season. So that would be really fun tonight. But, Neptune has really, especially because it's been in our fourth house in America's chart of our homes, the television, right? We have been under a spell since really, like I like to call it, the Twitter era. I mean, if you guys can try to time travel and mentally go back, right? And I think the last time we had the Virgo lunar eclipse was, I think, '09, if I'm not mistaken. But literally since 2010, right, when Twitter started, but since really 2011, when Neptune came in, everything has intensified in terms of kind of mm, well, the vitriol started, way back with Newt Gingrich and during the Clinton times, where we kind of got like less cordial and respectful in the political sphere. But even since Obama in '08, 2011, we can all kind of just picture in our minds where if you were to investigate it, like Gail was saying that the Virgos like to do, it's like truth on top of lie, on truth on top of lie, truth on top of lie. That is Neptune and Pisces. Many young people, Gen Zers, some millennials, you know, they haven't really experienced so much without Neptune. I'll say more for the Gen Zs, right? Millennials are old enough that they have, but think about like, since 2011, that's a long time. And it's great what Neptune, I have two of them in my home, right? If you guys are ever around like the kind of 13 and younger, right, you can see the magic. The alpha generation, they kind of came here. They are more spiritual, more awakened, more aware. But the 3D world is not, it's not natural for them, right? This is why you see these huge groups on Instagram and TikTok of teachers complaining about these young kids because these kids don't fall into line in the Rockefeller brainwashing programming school system. It goes against who they innately are, right? Do you get that? Because, like still being taught the same lies. Oh, Christopher Columbus discovered America. No, stop it. And you know what's so funny? This will make you crack up. This was during the pandemic. Second graders, my kids were taking classes online, ASU prep, and one of the kids wrote in the chat. This is a little tiny second grader. It may have even been first grade. No, I think it was in the second grade. Wrote in the chat when the teacher was teaching it, literally wrote, no, he didn't. Christopher Columbus didn't discover anything. So, I mean, when you got the mouths of babes, right? The truth comes out of the mouth of babes. So, I mean, but this is how outdated and antiquated our systems are. This was what was going on with Pluto Capricorn, the transformation, but the death, the destruction of financial, political, and entertainment, hence the Me Too movement. Now, Pluto Aquarius, we're going to get the truth about FEMA, the Red Cross, science, medicine, technology, crypto, the dark web, NASA, SpaceX, all this stuff. Pluto in Aquarius is about freedom and liberation. As I used to say, right? I used to say everybody will get a slice of pizza and a Snapple. And then I changed it to everybody would get a slice of vegan pizza and kombucha, right? So, but that's power to the people. That's what we're going to experience the next 20 years. This eclipse and this energy is really trying to jar and awaken us to get out of our own heads, right? Virgo, get out of your own head. Take care of your health. Stop trying to be perfect. That's for God. That's for God, source, creator, energy, however you want to call it or label it. And really start to understand that you are capable. You can take care of things, right? So just know when you're dealing with this health axis of Virgo Pisces, you're going to deal with the sister sign is always here to teach you. And you'll see this, a little bit later when we go to the Mercury retrograde chart. Venus and Mercury are opposing the Libra moon. Okay. And so, but you're going to see this energy where we have got to stop trying to be perfect and start to believe in ourselves again and know that we are worthy, we are capable, and we are strong. Okay. Now we'll get to a couple other of these placements and just talk about them in this great cosmic theater dance, with the Virgo lunar eclipse. Obviously, the trine is the 120-degree angle, and it's harmonious. Sometimes it can make you a little lazy, like Netflix and chill, and like trust fund kid. But in this energy and this transit, it's really also letting you know that whatever happens with the fluctuations of the stock market, whatever Elon or whatever craziness gets closed down, It doesn't matter. Stop focusing on it. It is not going to, yes, certain things can come on your doorstep. You know, obviously, you're seeing a clapback with legal, legal judges saying, no, you can't do that, people being rehired. But the people, the people have got to be strong and awakened. And you're already seeing some of these town halls where people are screaming and yelling, right? This is not what we wanted. This is what we didn't vote for, okay? Because you're having farmers extremely upset, the VA. See, this is what you don't touch the VA and Social Security. The American people, you think there was an insurrection before? You mess with Social Security and the VA, that insurrection January 6th will be nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, that's where you have to see that. And that's what I like about the guy running the People's Union. He was right. Don't go out in the streets. They're creating chaos for you to go out in the streets and then get arrested. Your power is with your dollar. It always has been. When you choose to shop local farmers markets and hand to hand and small businesses, and all of us here, right, if we all support each other, right, that changes what an Amazon, a Walmart, a Target, these big banks and corporations, their power and manipulation over us and our existence, it changes it. And that's what this Uranus trine, the Virgo full moon, and the South Node is really speaking to. So any questions or thoughts when you're looking at this chart? And I wanted to mention too, real quick, where's our friend? Because you're going to see our good buddy Lilith going to Scorpio, but for this eclipse, right? She was just dancing in Libra, okay? So you see the Lilith, but then she'll go into Scorpio, okay? So I think that's interesting. But when you're having Lilith in Libra, that's dealing with the marketplace. That's dealing with contracts, negotiations, relationships. But it's also dealing with the intuition about tapping in to what is fair, what is just, what is harmonious and peaceful, right? And so we've got to listen to our gut instinct as a collective, right? Because that's going to help guide us into how to behave and maneuver for the next 6 months. You can't be like all riled up because of you hear something and then you're ready to go protest in the street and then you get thrown in jail or God forbid deported to Nicaragua or Venezuela or whatever the hell, Guantanamo Bay. It's not about that. It's not worth that. You need to protest with your dollar, with your spiritual energy, right? You guys know they do predictive programming from all the movies, TV shows, The Simpsons. That's not an accident that The Simpsons predicts the future, right? It's run by Freemasons. You guys have got to get that. But we all have got to kind of wake up and stop thinking, oh my God, what a coincidence. No, there are no accidents, right? Get off the yellow brick road and walk on 125th Street in Harlem. Get real. Stop lying to yourself. Neptune's getting ready to leave. Stop, lift the veils off and see what's really going on here, right? We've played in Candyland, right, for too long. It's time for us to be grown men and grown women and be like, wow, our system is broken. Our government and the powers that be have gone rogue. And we, the people, with peace but intention, have got to claim our lives, our country, and our reality, but our world. This is not just for Americans, right? I know Marie's watching the replay for Australia too. Every country, everyone's seeing what's going on in this world theater. And for me personally, I always look at DC as the WWE, right? It's like wrestling. So when you start to look at it that way, you won't get so emotionally pulled in. You'll kind of laugh like, oh, Lord, what silliness are they performing today? Okay? And that can really help you. But guess what? We're talking about Jupiter and Gemini and Virgo moon and the eclipse. This can help you in Uranus and Taurus regulate your nervous system, right? Danny and Gail can tell you as Virgos, we can get overly stressed out, worrying. Oh, what's going to happen here? And stop, right? And I'm talking to Eric, right? Stop. We can't worry. Okay. So, any questions about this energy, and even any thoughts when we start? I'll zoom back out for a second in terms of the Mars and the Jupiter in play and all that. We'll talk more. Those are the major aspects. Um, any thoughts, you guys, or any questions? Don't be shy.
So, hey, Biggie, it's
Yeah.
Julie. Hi. What do you think of Juno on the ascendant in Sagittarius? You know,
See, and
that's
exactly, because one thing that I was thinking about, and I forgot, it was recently. I want to say it was on the maybe the Pisces new moon. We
hmm
had Juno in a
Oh, she was in
mute. I think it
trine.
was in a mutable T square, was it? Or I
No,
can't
the
remember.
trine.
Was it a trine?
Yeah, she was in late Scorpio then.
Oh, was she trying? What was she trying to? But I know she was in play with something. But one thing with Juno on the ascendant, it makes me think about. To be honest, it makes me think about the self-love that Americans need to have for one another.
Mm.
Because when you really think about Juno, it's Jupiter's wife, it's the asteroid for long-term relationships, commitment, and marriage. This is the chart of America. So I think of particularly for Americans, but internationally, Sagittarius is a global energy. Juno being there, it's like it doesn't matter when we have these hurricanes and storms, people are saving people in cars and boats, and we've had tornadoes and flooding and just prayers for all the people that they just went through stuff in the central and in the southeast. This extreme weather's coming up, right? You see it. People don't go to save somebody and say, well, wait a minute, who'd you vote for? Or wait a
Yeah.
minute, are you about DEI? Or are you heterosexual or gay? Or did you vote for Trump or Biden? Or, nobody cares, right? When the sugar honey iced tea hits the fan, we come together and we're human beings and we're humanity. And that's the greatest lesson that we need to learn at this time, right? That's what the mutable energy is about, right? Pisces season, it's not just a little bit of winter and a little bit of spring. Pisces, you guys, and having this alignment, it's letting you know it holds the wisdom of all 12 signs. The sun conjunct Saturn, right? The conjunction to the North Node and Neptune. We have got to have the compassion and empathy that we are realizing we the people matter and we've got to love and care one another. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, cream colored, beige, pink, you know, brown, gray, yellow, red. It's silliness, right? And so even the Juno kind of squaring the Ceres goddess of harvest, it's like letting you know if we don't kind of band together, right? And think about that. I really think about it in the sense that our food sources, right? Remember, Sedna is in Gemini. That's what it was. It was Ceres, Juno, and Sedna. It was a mutable T square because Sedna, you guys over here, is this grandmother goddess energy that comes out of the ocean that is literally bringing us new. I don't know if you remember a few months back, they mentioned that they found some, I believe, some pyramids off the coast of the oceans and the waters of Japan. They're finding new types of food sources from the ocean, and there's been more talk, especially even lately, last time when I said this, of species and things coming up and out of the waters, right? We've heard the talk of the UAPs, but mermaids, right? People are talking more about mermaids in some really weird, disgusting ways that I don't want to get into right now, but people are talking about mermaids as well. So that's the Sedna in Gemini. You are going to find things that are more enriched than sea moss coming up and coming out. And remember, the Sedna is trining Pluto and Aquarius. So there's going to be, trust me, more ships and things coming up out of the oceans, but we're going to find the Juno opposing the Sedna and kind of this mutable, even though it's pulling away a little bit, the Ceres, that, we are going to find new food sources from the ocean. And we have to realize that, and this hurt me, right? But I don't know if you guys have been, I've had some really smart people coming on about health and nutrition, really talking about whether it was Joseph Octaviani, Elizabeth Joseph, Ami Diaz, other people, right? That there's too much mercury and parasites from the food, the fish, the seafood, right? And so that sucks because, I don't eat the scavengers, and I tease my wife and kids because they like the shrimp and the lobster and the sushi, but that stuff is worse than any kind of fish because it's filled with parasites, right? But even, just fish in general. Now, when I was doing research, it was saying that one or two fish that are safer are more of the deeper fish that have less parasites and less mercury. And that's, I think it was Arctic char or Arctic chard, some sort of fish. And I think the wild salmon are a little bit better, but most of the fish is not good for us to eat. And that breaks my heart because, I could eat clams and scallops all day. Okay, so this is even the Virgo lunar eclipse, right? There's some things that I've got to release, right? Being a Virgo, right? I mean, it's for all of us, but I'm just personalizing it, right? And so, when you're thinking about Virgo Pisces and you're thinking about your health, Virgo rules the lower intestine. What are we eating? The gluten. What are we eating? This, the dairy. What are we eating that we know deep down inside it's not serving us? That we feel a little yucky and bloated or swollen or inflamed afterwards, or it doesn't agree with us, or that we just know that it's not good for our health. So, these are things that in this time, when you've got the Juno on the ascendant in Sag, it's kind of like, hey, we got to love, right? Doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, Christian, whatever. We got to love all the people, love ourselves, especially in this land, but internationally. Sagittarius and Aquarius, just so you guys know, are always connected to foreign lands and foreigners, but also taking flight. So hence, for an example, most Virgo and Scorpio risings will leave their hometown. It may take them a while. It took me 40 years, but there'll be transits that come around in your life, but usually Scorpio and Virgo risings, because of the fourth house being your hometown and homeland, Sag in the fourth, Aquarius in the fourth, they will leave their hometown, you know. So, and is it 100%? No, because you have to look at the planetary alignments, but that's just an example. So that was a great question, though. But I do think that it's really about kind of this is the only house of self, our physical appearance, our outer mask, our aura, and even having the galactic center on the ascendant at this time and born, we've got to have self love. That's really the energy that is going to help us and vibrating from our heart chakras and being our true authentic selves during the beginning stages of Age of Aquarius, but even these eclipses and these powerful energies in March. Um, don't beat up on yourself. Give yourself space, for whatever it is. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions with this chart? And I'll say this because it is the chart ruler. Remember Jupiter and Gemini, you guys? It is expanding the data and information, right? And remember, when all this stuff started with Doge, we had Mars trining Saturn. So that's literally what that is. It is like piercing and doing a harsh review of the structures and systems of our government. And, I want you guys to know that, like, what's happening, this has to happen. It doesn't mean it's comfortable or the way it's happening is fair or proper. I'm not, putting a judgment on it at all in that sense. But just know And really, I know it's hard. Sometimes these sound like they're just words, but we really have got to like take that spiritual wrench and kind of turn and adjust our brains to really say that all of this is for our soul's evolution and for our greatest good, right? Don't say what's happening to me. Say what's happening for me. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And you know I'm kind of
Yeah.
optimistic. I have Jupiter on the ascendant. But go ahead. What were you going to ask or say?
Regarding the financial system,
Yeah.
and I guess they're forcing us to switch to crypto. To me, it seems like the financial system is just full of theft, so that's why it's so bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, I was just wondering, is crypto the way to go?
Well, I'll tell you this because you have to follow what's legally happening and what you know their intentions are, right? They want to have financial control over all of us. This is why they gave birth to, I guess, what, over a year and a half ago now? I think it's or over the summer. It was the Fed now, right? So they want the
Mhm.
digital currency, right? Our country is already, bankrupt, the dollar, all this stuff, right? But what's think about what's going at play when you have mention, these are talks, you don't know if it's real, but Trump kind of attacking or coming at Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, right? That's the real showdown. Everything else is this is all silliness, right? But I mean, and it's not silly when people get fired and lose their jobs. It sucks, right? I feel for everybody. But, I will say this, that most people that have federal jobs, they can land on their feet in the private sector for the most part, but the government, I mean, obviously it's gotten too big, and it's not a Democrat's fault or a Republican's fault. It's the system's fault, right? And yeah, sometimes it will grow and expand under one party, then the next time it'll grow some more in another party and just grows in different ways, and they yell at each other. I mean, come on. I don't know. I'm 54, right? I've been watching this performance in this theater. I've been in politics since I was like 8 or 10 years old. This is like, it's silliness. At some point, we also have to kind of be honest and be like, they've been saying the same stuff for the last 40, 30, 50 years. You know what I mean? So know this, that is a myriad and one of the reasons why JFK was taken out, right? Because he had actually wrote put the American dollar on its own note, right? After, I always forget, I don't know if it was Truman or FDR took us off of gold, right? Um, or maybe was it Nixon? Maybe it was Nixon.
Nixon.
Yeah, that's right. It was Nixon. It was Truman or FDR that switched up our trine for, because you guys may not know this, March 4th used to be Inauguration Day. So it's
Right.
Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. That's the trine. That's the trine you see on the dollar bill. When he switched it to January 20th, that made it, right, Capricorn, that's the sextile, the opposition, and then the sextile from Scorpio. But that's not the perfect flow of energy, right? So it was supposed to be March 4th, and they switched it. And a lot of things have changed, even since early 1900s, and obviously us kind of being workers and slaves for England, and if you guys know about you know the whole thing. And I'm gonna have a guest on. It'll probably be airing on the 25th. She's gonna be a powerhouse, talking about sovereignty and stuff like that. But if you don't know, because of our social security cards, our parents didn't know a lot of, we've been signed over and we are employees, right? And you have three sovereign nations, which are the Vatican, London, and DC, right? They operate separately. And you see little glimpses of cracks in the matrix, right? When DeSantos was trying to, legally do something with Disney, they're like, we don't have to answer to you. We're under London's jurisdiction, right? So that's just an example, so you guys know, there's always other things at play. And so with Kennedy, he was trying to get us off the Federal Reserve. This is why I called them the Four Horsemen, There were a lot of powerful figures and powerful men who were trying to liberate and free the people, especially Huey P. Newton, did him at Coffee Talk, the Black Panthers, they were incredible. But when I talk about the Four Horsemen, I'm talking about JFK, MLK, RFK, and Malcolm X, because those are the last four, and to me, in some ways, the more authentic four men who were really about the people and about freedom financially, religiously, and everything for Americans and humanity. And they were all taken out for those reasons. Okay. So when Trump talks about, what is it, Jared or Jacob Powell or the Federal Reserve, and tries to, I don't know if this is a good time to buy silver. When you're dealing with the crypto, Ripple made a deal with Apple. So the mechanism of transferring money, the only things that will last really will be the XRP, XLM, and Ripple. I'm not a financial advisor. I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. I'm joking. But, if I was dancing in crypto, that would be it. The Bitcoin is so high and this and that, and there's other little, like just like the stock market, penny stocks, and you can invest, whatever. But the people that are really behind it, it's not this guy that they said, Hashimoto or whatever. That's a ruse, right? It's very dark, just like the dark web. And, it's not for our greatest good. The same thing that can give us financial freedom, that you can send money, this and that. Remember, convenience will have you on the road to perdition. Convenience will take you to hell, right? You don't ever want to submit to putting a chip in your head or your hand, or at least I hope you don't. I know I don't. You know what I mean? And getting caught up in Starlink and getting caught up in Neuralink and stuff like that. Those are very dangerous things when you're playing with people's DNA and their brains and stuff like that. You have to be careful. You go to the airport, you can deny having to go through the scanners and get that radiation. You don't have to do that. You can request to be patted down. They will stress you out and irritate you about it, but that's your right. You don't have to. I think that's the problem, you guys. We're so not ready to rock the boat, and we're so willing to just go with whatever they tell us, but we don't really know our freedoms and our rights. And so you don't have to be subjected to certain things. You just have to speak up. Uranus, Taurus, activate your throat chakra. Virgo Lunar Eclipse, right? Having your throat chakra closed has not served you, and it will never serve you, and definitely not in the age of Aquarius. You have to speak your authentic truth from your heart chakra, which is why 2027, the human design prophecy, as a collective, we will leave the solar plexus and go to the heart chakra. From now to 2027, we are going to go through HH, right? Holy hell, it's going to be a lot. We are built for it. We can survive it. We're going to be fine. This is why you have to trust in your Lilith, trust in your heart chakra, activate your throat chakra, be your authentic self, right? Focus on your health. Have compassion, empathy, grace, and mercy for yourself first, and then extend it to others. Stop pointing fingers out. Be introspective, look within. That's hard. As we get to the next chart, Venus, I can't talk today. Venus, Mercury, retrograde in Aries. You guys know air and fire are masculine, not male, masculine energies. That means they're not introspective. They're looking out. They're outgoing, action orientated, right? Telling an Aries to be introspective, that's annoying to them, right? They don't want to do that. Fire and air signs, they're not looking within. They don't want to sit still and stop and contemplate, right? That's for the earth and water signs to do and stress ourselves out too much. So this balance, this dance of this energy, we have got to be introspective, but not to the point that it's too much and we're being stagnant, right? Overanalysis creates paralysis. That's not going to serve us. We have to also have the Aries, brave, courageous energy to become the president leaders of our own lives and realize that, hey, we can't rely on these structures and systems, but we, the people, have to come together. That's why Lilith is in Libra. That's why we've got the partial Aries solar eclipse coming up, right? And Chiron and Aries, and heal those wounds that we're not enough, right? We're so capable. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all seen these exposés where people get into these companies and corporations of these Fortune 500 companies. And I saw it was this one powerful woman, and she got in and she was like, this whole time I'm thinking that these are these great people, that they know what they're doing. And then she got in there and she was like, they don't have a clue. They're in these positions of power, but they don't know what the heck they're doing. And she was like, I got in there and I cleaned up and streamlined and fixed this and fixed that. And you guys hear these stories all the time. And you have to stop thinking because someone has a title, someone has a PhD, someone has this, someone's the CFO, someone's the CEO, someone's the head of this, that they've earned it or that they know what the hell they're doing. They don't. Stop giving people credit that they have not earned or deserve because of some title, some person that is telling you a story. History is the story of the people that won, and maybe they had more cannons and guns. Doesn't mean that they're better. That's what I want you guys to get with this chart and this energy. We have the support, we have the energy to awaken our throat chakras. I am energy. Stop BSing around, get healthy mentally and physically, right? I'm telling you, my body's sore from walking like 5-6 miles in Vegas with my wife and kids, but I needed to do it, right? Now, I've had 13 surgeries, but I'm a former track star, so the muscle memory comes in. Like, yeah, initially I'm in pain, but then all of a sudden it's going to be like, yeah, you used to do this, mister. Get back out there, right? So that's what we've got to kind of really focus on at this time, especially during, remember, to July 2026, we've got the Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node. So, yes, service to ourselves and one another, but we have got to rely on ourselves more and find our tribes, find our people's union, find your local farmers market, right? Find the local convenience store, the local supermarket, right? That we don't always have to go to these conglomerates because it's convenient. Convenience, you will regret way faster than you will regret change and being uncomfortable. That's where God runs the blessings and miracles in our lives. When we're willing to change and grow and be uncomfortable, that's where the magic comes in. Okay? That's the Uranus trine and the Uranus sextile the sun. Remember, the sextile is a harmonious tapping energy. It's like a Venus energy, 60-degree angle. Now, with the sextile, with that, I like to use, no more than a 5-degree orb, but a sextile I like to be from 0 to 3 degrees. And you have that with the Uranus, right, at 24 to the Pisces sun. So that's that like that awakening to your I am energy, not just to your emotional mind with the trine. The sextile is like, hey, hey Jackie, hey Quintella, hey Eric, hey Danny, hey Julie, hey Gail, you're enough. You can speak your truth. Value yourself. Value your experience. Value your knowledge. You are worthy. You are enough. Right? And same thing from Michael and Murray and Cheryl and Stephen on the replay and everybody else in the collective. We have got to stop putting ourselves down. Right? Know that we are connected. God consciousness is within us. You guys are amazing. And I tell you guys this, right? When I work with you and I read your charts, it's never fluff. I'm not going to lie to anybody. Everyone has gifts in their chart, spiritual gifts, but we all have different abilities, right? Remember, your 12th house is your hidden talents. So we all have different hidden talents in our 12th house. We got to awaken it and bring it up and share it with the chart. Look at your Venus. Look at where you got to be disciplined with your Saturn. Look at where you got to take action with your Mars. Right now in Cancer, for this eclipse, it's about our safety, security, our homes, and our families. Now, my funny analogy, Mars and Cancer, is like giving a mother a machete or machine gun in the kitchen. Mama just needs a good knife, right? she don't need a machete or machine gun in the kitchen. But, Mars and Cancer is like, don't play with me. Don't play with my children, right? Last few weeks, with this eclipse energy coming, I had to go talk to the principal and vice principal for the Taylor twins. Don't play with my boys, right? And so, and trust me, daddy was nothing. That's the Mars Cancer. Mama Bear, right? My wife was like, you don't want to get her going. So, so that's what I really want you all to understand is that this is really for us to awaken our health, our self-loves, moving to our true authentic selves, and speaking more truthfully and authentically. You know when you're not being real to yourself, right? Even when you're, like, I mean, I was real in Vegas. I was like, whoa, I really don't like being in the matrix, right? It's like when I dip my pinky toe back into it, I'm like, ooh, this is like, you're going through the casino, all the cigarette smoke, and I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even breathe. It's 2025. Who still smokes cigarettes? And I don't mean it to judge. I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm just saying that that is a thing that is not beneficial for anyone. So why partake in it? It's just like every day, sitting around and smoking cigarettes and or doing cocaine or crack and drinking Pepsi Cola. We can act like, oh, it's not a big deal. No, because when you know better, you do better. When you do the scientific research, right? Just like coming home after work every day and having an alcoholic beverage. Well, new studies show alcohol shrinks your brain and you're affecting your kidneys and your liver. So maybe you shouldn't be drinking. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I can come off kind of Pollyanna and stuff like that, but it's also because I danced in the matrix. I lived in it for so long. I partook. Never smoked cigarettes though. But you know what I mean? And so when you are stepping away or when you've totally stepped away and then you go back to Candyland again and play, the rides don't look as clean, right? The shine and the luster doesn't look as shiny. You're like, oh, look at that. There's a lot of there's blood on the floor over there, and oh my God, there's dirt over here, and then you start to see it with new eyes, right? That's what I want you to start to see with the structures and systems. They're crumbling and breaking because they have to. And it doesn't matter who's in DC, it still would be happening, okay? Because you do know the president, no matter who it is, it's a puppet, it's a figurehead, right? You're talking about BlackRock. You're talking about the Bilderbergs. You're talking about the Masons. You're talking about the Jesuits. You're talking about the people that really run the world, not these little toy leaders, okay? So before we go to Mercury retrograde, any other questions with this Virgo lunar eclipse? And just know you're going to see a lot of things start to awaken around health. You're going to hear some news and information, probably legally, with our government and the WHO and Fauci and RFK Jr. and this and that. It's only getting started, y'all. So watch what happens between now and September, and you're going to be like, oh, Eric wasn't lying, okay? It's going to be on and popping. As the great poet Terrell Owens would say, get your popcorn ready. So, any other thoughts or questions before we go to Mercury retrograde? Oh, and I forgot to say, remember with the Jupiter Gemini, it's at home in Sagittarius. So what? It's debilitated there. So what is it also expanding? Yap, 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 right? Ignore all the gossip. That's expanding, even though it's not actually squaring because it's at 13 degrees, the eclipse or the Saturn anymore. But know that it's expanding the gossip, right? Oh my God, this and oh Trump this and oh Elon that, and it's just and it's like the better you turn off the idiot box, the better you will feel, and just know that what they're doing, just be like, it won't affect me, right? Because this is what I want everyone to know with this Uranus and Taurus. You are powerful electric magnetic beings. You can manifest your reality. With every word we speak, we are co-creators. So literally speak the positivity over your life. Ignore the gossip, the negativity, the vitriol, the fighting, right? Because your next door neighbor could be of the opposite party, but you may need a coffee or a tomato, or they may help you with a jump in your car or whatever. And guess what? All that other silliness doesn't matter. It's a soul, it's a human being. And so that's my kind of utopian dream, right? That we can get to, really kind of seeing it, because trust me, it's a lot more angering and frustrating and stressful to just stay at war with ourselves and our neighbors and our fellow Americans and our this one, that one, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. If they turn off the power grid tomorrow, you think you're going to ask your neighbor who they voted for if you really need something? No, it's a farce. And that's what I really just want to grab people, hug them, and shake them to get people to see that, but to then integrate it into our realities. And so the Jupiter Gemini is expanding a lot of this talky, 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 walky, walky, walky. Okay. And the part of fortune being here, that's also interesting, right? Because you're seeing, do you guys remember, this was a big thing in the late 70s and the 80s, the board game Risk. I used to love to play Risk. That's what all this is, right? You got Poland and Italy and this country and that country with Russia and America and Hungary, and then this European country and this one, and now they're not friends and they're enemies, and I don't like you and you won't support me, and then Zelensky the other day, thanking Trump, and he switched his story, and da 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 da, right? So that's what I'm saying. You can't get caught up in these emotions because you don't even know it's real. So just what, 10 days later, now all of a sudden Zelensky is like loving Trump and everything's fine, and and you're helping us with this, and well, because what? Russia started to bomb them heavily again. But see, that's what I want you to, that's why I'm bringing this up, is because we as a people get so caught up in these theater. It's like orchestrated events, right? And I like to watch the C-SPAN, not a news channel, to get to see what really happened, not the news clips, right? Because this is the thing, if you're ever at a live event and you see how the media speaks about it, reports it, you would definitely agree with Trump, right? It's literally hashtag fake news. I was saying that before Trump, but I didn't coin it as fake news. But I've been at different events, and you see how the media, they don't report the truth, right? There's always an angle. There's always this, there's always that. And you get it from both sides, right? That's why I tell you, you could go to ABC, CNN, Fox, go to this, that, whatever, and you're getting different stories and different perspectives and half truths. But become your own media. You saw me say that on Astro Weather, I think, last week, right?
So
This Neptune leaving Pisces, when it leaves you guys March 30th, oh my God, you're gonna just like imagine like if you had a bunch of you were in the Sahara Desert and it was like all this sand on your glasses or in your eyes, and you haven't really seen anything clearly since 2011. That's a long time. And when that Neptune leaves, you're gonna like wash out your eyes, or you're gonna like rub your eyeballs a little, and you're gonna be like, OMG, I didn't realize, I didn't see that. This is what this was the whole time. Trust me. You, and when it retrogrades back to Pisces for the final couple of months, oh, you're gonna realize, oh God, what was that? Remember the movie Big, when he put the coins into the thing and that's what shrunk him from an adult to a kid, right? The
Yeah.
old broken down amusement park. It's gonna be like that. You're gonna come back and you'll see just a few months when Neptune goes back into Pisces, and then it will be like the movie scene, and everything's like full circle. Like I think of Jim Carrey. I don't know if it was Liar Liar, one of the movies, when it's like and then whoop, and then you're gonna be like, oh, that's what that was the whole time. Now, what I don't want you to say is like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Oh my God, I'm dumb. No, you're not. You had a lot of things deceiving you. But the thing is, don't stay in the cognitive dissonance and continue to stay in the deception. It's not going to serve you. And that's my greatest thing that I want to offer and give to the collective, to you guys, and to humanity, is once you are finally seeing the truth, please believe it. No matter how weird, how shocking, how unbelievable it is. I mean, do you guys remember the first time England and America really verbally from their throat chakra acknowledged aliens were real? Was a Friday news dump in the New York Times during the pandemic. Maybe you don't remember. I remember because I pay attention to these things. That's when they first openly admitted to it. But who was paying attention to it? If you guys noticed, on Fridays, they always drop these weird stories and say things because nobody's watching the
Nobody's
news.
paying attention.
Nobody's paying attention. It's not an accident, you guys. That's all that I want to do is bring you into the light. Carol Ann, come into the light, right? Because trust me, it's going to be comical. And you're going to remember when I'm saying this. And you guys out there in the collective, remember this. When Neptune leaves Aries, it will take a little bit, but you're going to start to see, wow, lie on top of truth, revelation, revelation. But the magic will be that either last day in October or the first couple of days in November, when it comes back into Pisces until February, that 2, 3 months, you are going to be like, it's going to pour over you. And it's going to be like these waters of Aquarius, Pluto Aquarius, right? Aquarius, the old man, right? Remember, Aries is the childhood genius, 0 to 7. So we've got to heal our inner childs, Chiron, Venus, Mercury. Value yourself, little boy, little girl. You are brave. You are a leader. You can do it, right? Then the Neptune coming back in, you will clearly see after that time in Aries from April, right, to early November, you're going to start to see the different things be revealed and clarity start to come. And then when it goes back in, they're going to try to give you that last little bit of like the magic circus show, 3 card Monty. You're going to see, but you'll see it clearer. And then you're going to be like, oh my goodness. But that's not where you beat up on yourself. That's where you believe now. You wake up and you don't go back, right? What did Lot's wife, right? Do not yearn, because turning back is yearning. Don't get turned into a pillar of salt because you're yearning for the old world. The old world is done. There is no, oh, remember back in 2019? As I like to say it, we can't go back to before Kobe died. Because Kobe died right before the pandemic started. That was the last bit of reality. You can't go back to that. That world is gone. It is. And I like to use that as the analogy because that's when it all kind of changed. If you really think back and remember, that's when now it really changed way before that, but I'm just talking about in terms of this like awakening in this time period. You can't go back before COVID. There is no going back to 2019. There's no going back to, I don't even know. But all right, let's get to Mercury retrograde. Any last questions or thoughts about the Virgo lunar eclipse? And remember, it is pushing you to your highest self. This is a good time for spring cleaning. I'm going to get in the closet today and probably more so tomorrow, right? And I got clothes older than my kids. They got to go. But I'm that nostalgic Virgo, like, oh, I remember when I bought that shirt, and my wife looks at me like I'm a fool, right? But we all know that we've got stuff, and it's not just clothing, right? Because I like to take old shirts that don't work no more or whatever, and like, oh, that's just a house shirt or pajama shirt, right? So that's just what I like to do. So that's my excuse to keep it, and it's not
I
that
do the same.
I know, right? But if I'm being honest, right? I don't actually like to quote unquote sleep in like quote unquote pajamas, right? And so depending on the weather, right, I'm gonna have some older long sleeve shirts that I may want to sleep in the winter, and I got a bunch of old t-shirts that my wife is like, that is ridiculous. Why are you keeping that? Right? I got some old shirts from when I was in Paris in '04, but I'm like, it's a shirt from Paris. I can't get rid of it. So
It still fits, right?
it does since I lost some weight with this fasting. It definitely does. But even more so, it's a pajama shirt. That's all.
Right.
And it makes me smile, so I keep it. But there are things that I've got to purge and let go of and release. And I want all of you to think about what are those things in your life. And a lot of it may not be the physical, mundane materialism things. Some of it may be the things that you think and say about yourself. Because I don't want you guys to speak ill about yourselves anymore. You are so worthy of positive self-talk, right? You know, my mantra, I always say, my greatest hope for you is to retire from negative self-talk. And I mean it.
I got a quick question.
Yes, please.
So, with all of the energies that's going on, I know you said releasing. Is this also a good time for cord cutting, or should that be done later?
I think it's a great time. And one thing that I would say with the Mercury and Venus retrograde, um, you know, this is where we can be introspective and admit to what relationships or what things do we need to change. And it's going to shift from Aries to Pisces. So remember, the Venus retrograde goes to 24 degrees Pisces. The Mercury retrograde goes to 26 degrees Pisces. But the last 3 weeks of the retrograde, it'll be from like the 29th of March for the Pisces party that I was talking about the other night with Lisa Salvatore. You're going to have Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, North Node, all there in Pisces, as we have the Aries partial solar eclipse and Neptune goes to Aries. So Neptune will be there that one day, the 29th, and then the 30th it goes in. So there's something powerful shifting on the 29th. And when the Venus and Mercury are retrograde in Aries, it's like this is where we have to stop being so direct and impulsive and overly assertive and aggressive and think before we move and react. So because it's Venus, that's a good time to kind of let go of relationships. Now, cord cutting is different energetically for everybody, but a lot of times we don't understand why we got issues with mom or why we have issues with our children. And sometimes it's because indigenous cultures used to do this and we've stopped doing it. But the medicine women, which they like to label as witches, or the shamans, they would have the ceremonies usually for the kids between 12 and 16 where they would cut their cord. And when you did that, then they started to have their own I am energy separate from their mother. When it never gets cut, and for some of us as adults, right, if it was never cut, there's a little bit of our life force energy that's getting drained from our parent and vice versa.